But just in general, now that you've been on YouTube for, I think, I'm going to say longer than anyone I've ever spoken to, how would you review YouTube as a platform as it exists in 2022? If you had to give them a rating, if you have some pros and cons, how do you assess the state of this gigantic company?
Yeah, I mean that is difficult to like. I feel like I need categories.
I
Like
can
the
do that.
video player is like 10 out of 10, and
Yeah.
I think people often sort of don't think about the fact that the video player is 10 out of 10, but like that is actually, and like the upload experience is very good. And I think that, but like I think a lot of the parts that I don't like about YouTube are just things that are difficult parts of having done what YouTube did. We're like all the hoops that you have to jump through, the moderation that is clunky and wrong often, the demonetization and the algorithmic selection of this stuff and
Mhm.
how it doesn't treat people fairly. Like all that stuff is, I find very frustrating, but I also recognize that it's a difficult problem that was created by virtue of the existence of their platform. Like you couldn't do what they did without running into those problems.
Yeah,
And I don't know how else to solve them except for the way they solved them.
I had a weird random little meeting a long time ago where I think someone at Google said something like, they have this massive success and the scale of their platform means that every tiny problem they have is now a problem at scale. Just because the whole thing is so big, it's like, oh, we have a tiny little spam problem. It's like, no, that's actually a massive problem now across the internet's video source. How'd you feel about them getting rid of the dislike counter? Any strong thoughts on that?
Oh, you're getting me into the most dangerous opinion on the platform, which is
Interesting.
that I don't think it's a big deal.
Okay.
So I recognize that it has like that there's like there are good parts and bad parts to getting rid of the dislike button. Like that's where I'm at. And the bad part for me, like the main thing that I don't like about it is that there are times when I would like to know instantly whether or not this video is going to contain useful information, and that was a really good way to see that. And you might think, well, then why get rid of it? Like if it's doing a good, then why get rid of? But a lot of the things you hear, and I'm like, oh man, you asked me, I'm gonna catch flack for this.
I love it.
A lot of what you hear from people is that they will say, well, how do we now tell a corporation that we didn't like their video? And to me, that's sort of like you took away my tool for mass brigading. And when we're mass brigading against YouTube or against EA or something, I'm like, I don't have a lot of sympathy for those people. Like they can deal with it. But like I also have seen it happen over and over and over again to people whose content like just like ideologically doesn't align with other people. And then you have these big groups of people who like organize themselves on Discords or subreddits, and then they come in and make that person's life miserable. And then all of their videos have this like weird permanent stain on them that you never don't see. It's there for the rest of the life of that video, where you're just stuck with this like 70% dislike. And people look at those videos and they're like, why do people dislike this so much? What's going on? And it became used as an abuse tool. And
sure.
YouTube didn't like that it was being used as an abuse tool. And they were like, how do we stop it? And, you and I can see our dislikes in the back end. We know how many people are liking and disliking our content, which is useful. And I certainly don't think that it's something that didn't have negative consequences. I just think it also had positive consequences. Like I think there was a reason that they did it. I think they explained it fairly well why they did it.
Yeah.
And I think that like it's normal to disagree. And we also sort of exist on like the more time you spend on, and the more sort of like you base your career and your business on a platform, the more you sort of like are actually having a relationship with it that's more like a citizen to a government. And people don't like it when the government makes decisions that they don't like, and that's
Fair.
a thing that happens. And I also think that it's fine for people to lodge their complaints because we don't get to vote for these people, so we might as well yell about the thing that matters to us. And so I certainly don't hold it against anybody who's mad about it. But from my perspective, like there's more worrying things.
Yeah, I made my video talking about why there are downsides, obviously, and being a part of the tech community, I see like, okay, I want to for example, install, this doorbell, and I want to make sure I shut off power correctly and follow a tutorial. I no longer see that the tutorial has a bunch of dislikes because it's dangerous to me. And like that quick thing is just one of the negatives. My question was always just about like all of the downsides that they are solving for here aren't really actually being solved if the comment section doesn't also get better. Because all of this mass brigading and hatred that follows people around via the like to dislike ratio also follows them around in the comments section, which needs a lot of work. So I give the video player. Go ahead.
YouTube has given creators some pretty good tools for moderating comments, a lot better than other platforms. But that took time for that to develop. So there are ways to engage with that as a creator. It's certainly, but it doesn't like take away the reality that people are still going to be happily in group mobbing people. And like, it's just like one of the ugliest things I think about the internet is mobs of people being jerks. Eventually, I feel like maybe we'll get to the point where we realize it's actually really cringy and like embarrassing to be a member of one of those groups of people. But that's going to take some time, I think. It does often feel good to be a part of one of those groups, and not to say that I've never been a part of them. I also am sometimes part of a mob of people who's mad about something.
Yeah, we grow up out of the mob, but then somebody else grows up into the mob. So it's a tough cycle. Hey, thanks for watching that clip. Of course, you want to make sure you subscribe to the Clips channel so you never miss these, but also subscribe to the main Waveform podcast channel because there's more of you here than there are watching the full episodes, which I get it, but like the full episodes are pretty good too. Also, we've got some really good episodes coming up, some good guests, some really good fun. You're going to want to be here. Trust me, hit the red button. It's a good time.
Don't want anyone to see, maybe.
Yeah. No spoilers.
If you click subscribe, you might see it. I don't know what that sound was. What was that? Oh, it was the sound of you clicking the subscribe button. Nice. I see you. All right.